The top 4 or 5 might be settled, but outside of that, it's anyone's caper. The Brisbane Lions are in. Then you go to the Saints, the Bombers, the Bulldogs, Adelaide, and let's have a look who's outside that top 8. We mentioned it last week. The grand finalists from last week are not there. The Tigers are just gathering a bit of momentum and putting a bit of a scare through everyone. And I like what the Giants are doing.
Are you declaring the top 4, Gaz? Because there seems to be a gap between, if we go back to the top 4, in the 8, if we roll it back, you just look at that there. I think there's a distinct difference between the top 4 to the bottom 4 of the top 8.
Yeah, I think so. Things can change, of course, but I think the interest lies in the rest. I read today, I think it was our boys that put it up here at Fox, that it's the first time that outside the top 8, sides got a negative win-loss ratio for a long, long time. So they're not exactly flying outside the top 8.
No, they're not. And potentially the first time since 1963 that both grand finalists might not make finals. Now, there's still a fair bit of footy to go, but that's an interesting one. So,
a lot of footy still to go. And I wouldn't be writing off the Cats just yet.
What's your big question
Voice
tonight,
of reason on the couch tonight, just putting us back in our box. I love it. Hey, we've got this situation where Sydney, they're out. They're not going to play finals. And now the Cats, I know you don't want to put a line through them, and no, I don't think anyone is, to be perfectly honest. They've got too much talent, but, geez, they've got some work to do ahead of them. And, Chief, I don't know whether you've been a part of the Premiership Window. I know there's many people at home that want to see this on a more regular basis. We don't put it up every week, do we, Brownie? Because we need to see movement. This was after round 7, Geelong very much inside, the number 2 offensive team in the competition. Now we can have a look at this Premiership Window, see how it's changed a little bit, and there is a bit of a concern. So they still are able to score absolutely fine. Defensively now been opened up a bit. It's just Collingwood and Melbourne who are inside at the moment. Richmond, the interesting one. So they're getting themselves up there from a scoring point of view. So defensively, Port Adelaide right on the cusp, and the Brisbane Lions as well. But the Cats, have you got any concerns, boys, or not? Because they have been under all sorts of pressure from a manpower point of view, but everyone's got injuries. But they got overwhelmed by Port Adelaide after quarter time.
The concerns are midfield group. So injuries mainly to the midfield group. Obviously, Dangerfield goes down the weekend, which has been the real... It started off the year, Gaz, a lot of injuries to key defenders. Now it's the midfield. And if your engine room's in trouble, it's really hard to score and dominate teams from week to week.
So if I'm Chris Scott, I'm saying to my recruiting guys, I need a couple of top-class midfielders post-haste. I mean, you take Selwood out of the mix, it's a massive loss. Danger's 33 years old. Cam Guthrie's had some injuries, hasn't found the form that we've seen in recent years. Tom Atkins got dragged along by these blokes last year, hasn't reached those heights again. Tanner Bruin's come down. I'm not sure he's going to fill the void they need. They lack a bit of class and a bit of depth in the midfield.
Got one in mind?
That's their problem.
Got one in mind?
I don't have one in mind. I want 2 of them, though. If I'm Chris Scott, I need more. They need help in the midfield.
Well, you threw up Sean Darcy. In the end, it becomes which Darcy do you want?
Not a ruckman.
Sean Darcy or a Darcy Parish, whose name's been bandied around as a free agent.
I don't mind Darcy Parish, and I think he'd fit well into that young midfield. So demographic-wise, they'd put him in pretty good shape, no question about it. But I like a Sean Darcy. I think they need a big ruckman. You know, the last year in the grand final, they got away with it, you know, with Blitz Arves and Stanley. He's an hour's drive down to Cobden, his hometown, Gaz. I wouldn't mind him just putting the suitcase towards him and just saying, hey, mate, wouldn't you mind a bit of folding?
Chief's just shocking.
No,
he's not a big fan of ruckman.
No, it's not. I want a good...
You don't like ruckman, you never have.
I do. I want a good competitive ruckman, but I tell you what I'm not doing.
What?
I'm not selling the farm to get one in. I'm not going to complicate things as far as the salary cap goes, as far as all sorts of issues go, what it's going to cost you to get. I don't want to do that.
They dictate. I love the way Geelong dictate footy games. So they win uncontested footy, they uncontested mark, and they just move teams around wherever. First time under Chris Scott, they're losing the uncontested possession route, and it's starting to tell, I reckon. It's a really interesting watch. Port Adelaide, on the other hand, can't do a thing wrong. Their start to the season's been extraordinary. That 20-minute burst, and it goes down as from a pressure point of view, the highest pressure rating in 20 minutes that we've ever seen. And in that time, they went nuts. They kicked 6 goals, they kicked 4 from stoppage, and they just welcome pressure. Port Adelaide looked like they said, OK, let's ask these blokes the question. And not so much they failed, it just overwhelmed them.
Well, what's becoming convincing over the last few weeks, guys, is they can beat you in different ways. So I think they've always been a pretty good pressure team, but mainly a front half pressure team, guys. Last week against the Western Bulldogs, the way they moved the ball from one end of the ground to the other, which was a question mark. And then, again, their pressure was amazing on Thursday night. They locked it in their front half and they scored. So they can put a burst on you. They've got a lot of very talented, explosive midfield, especially that young crew.
I've got to tell you, we need to pay testament to Ken Hinkley's coaching because he's converted a couple of players and he's given them roles. And I'm going to say none more so than Sam Palpepper. Now, here's a guy that loves playing midfield, would love to get his 25, 30 touches every week. He's had to go forward and play a forward 50 role, and he's embraced it. He's a wrecking ball, this bloke. He attacks contests. He just runs through and makes things happen. And if he's not kicking spectacular goals that are turning games, he's creating them for others. I think the way that he's embraced that role, when it could have gone two ways, you get taken out of the midfield when you're used to getting a lot of the ball, he's having a lot less possession, but an even bigger impact.
So when those All-Australian boffins sit down and pick their side, specifically you look at this and go, OK, there's a role for this sort of bloke in an All-Australian side.
100% there is. But I mean...
Are they thinking about that, or are they thinking about
they're not.
pushing out a midfielder?
Are you still on that? Are you in
No, Eddie Betts and Nathan Buckley's. I've never been on there, but he was the highest rated player on the weekend, so I hope they're looking at those stats.
They won't
Look at the contempt on the Chiefs' face of the All-Australian
Have you ever been on there?
No, he did it with Jed McEntee as well. Did you see the role he played on Tom Stewart?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
4 possessions, kicked a goal, but got himself involved body on body whenever Stewart wanted to go to a marking
So
contest.
we re-signed him, Gaz? Are we re-signing Kenny Hinkley?
Well, just on that, just before we do that, so Chris Scott, again, is a super coach, took the corridor away from Port Adelaide, and you talked about finding another way to win. So all of a sudden, the way that they've been playing's gone, they just become a pressure team. Okay, so, and then become a ball movement side under pressure, and they were fantastic. So Kenny Hinkley's future is a fascinating listen to David Koch with SEN on Friday. Half an hour, and Kingy was at him about this August deadline, and he's committed. He said, yeah, we'll make a decision in August. On the surface, seems really strange that the mid-year exam, they're going to make a decision based on the mid-year exam, which counts for nothing at the end of the year, before the end-of-year exam starts. And the end-of-year exam is finals footy, of course. So, strange. You've been there.
Yeah, I'm amused that everyone wants them to jump because of the media saying you've got to re-sign Ken. If you've got a plan in place, why change? Ken's not going anywhere.
No, it's not so much jumping. It's about making a decision in August before they've even got.
Yeah, well, personally, I'd leave it to the end of the year.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And wait till it plays out.
The strange timing, and I admire that they've been so.
They've stuck to their
steadfast.
guns.
Absolutely, they have, and why wouldn't they?
Yep.
But it does seem strange that you go, OK, it's all about September. Yeah, it's only ever matters in September, and you're going to potentially make a decision before that even starts.
Well, it mightn't even be a decision. It might just be start engaging in discussions.
He was pretty forthright. They're making a decision in August. But we know they can change them all in the end. Ken Hinkley
Well,
might
I'd be happy to wait until the end of the year if I was Ken Hinkley as well.
He might turn around and say, hey.
Well, mate, he's going to be sought after. So we know Richmond's out there.
You think he wants to leave these players?
Well, exactly right. But they've got to come to the party. So if he wins finals...
Who's going to come to the party?
Well, Richmond. They might be keen.
Why is he going to walk away from a group that he's got absolutely flying, that he's got great faith in being led by these gun young players? Why would he want to walk away from them?
He needs to be convinced that he has the support from that football club. No doubt about it going forward.
You see his win-loss ratio?
Well...
He's flying, this man.
Mate, clearly... Can't you remember the off-season? Can't you remember the off-season when they wanted to run him out of town?
Well, there's a bit of angst on the couch.
Have you seen how many coaches have nearly been sacked and then gone on to win flags?
Mate, they were burning...
Stay the course, mate.
They were burning effigies on him in the Port Adelaide town square.